everyone, I am Mary and today we are going to do a video for my top 10 reads of 2023. I'm super excited about this video, but first I'm just gonna say, yes, my voice does sound weird. I've been sick for the past couple days, but I really wanted to make this video soon, so I'm making it now when my voice still sounds a little sick. I feel a lot better though today, so I think I'm on the flip side of it. I do feel way better, but my voice sounds like I am not better. Let's get to the top 10. First of all, some of the rules I set for myself, because I did reread some things this year. So number one, it had to have been read for the first time this year. And number two is that I couldn't put multiple books of a series on the list. So if there was another book in the series I read, I had to choose between them, choose which one I wanted on the list more. So pretty basic rules for myself, I guess. I feel like those are pretty common rules anyone has when they're making their list. The books on this list, you might never have heard of them. Some of them make you want you to call the FBI on me, and some of them you're like, of course you put that on the list. Everyone puts that on their list. We got a mixed bag of things in this list. Hopefully you have fun though, and let's get started with number 10. In my number 10 spot is a book that is a final book in the series, and that is Grim and Barrett by Juliet Cross. This book is the last book in the Stay a Spell series. It's a paranormal romance. Each book follows the Savoy sisters, or one of the Savoy sisters, and them getting into a relationship. And I love them. The Savoy sisters are a group of witches. This final book is Clara and Henry's love story, and it's just as good as all the rest of them, and I love it. I'm so sad this is the last book in this series because I want more. And I know that Juliet Cross is writing another series that is in this world, but it's not going to follow the same characters, which is still sad. But at least we get to still stay in this world for a little bit longer. And you know, I loved it because I also bought the Kickstarter. If you don't follow Juliet Cross, you probably didn't know that there was a Kickstarter for it, but she did a Kickstarter where all of the books got special edition covers, and the back is pretty. It just looks all nice. And then there's page overlays too. Gorgeous. Love it. Love to see it. And they're all signed now. Beautiful. I couldn't pass it up, so I bought all of them in the special edition. But it made it to the top books of my year, so I think we're good. The number 9 spot is a book that all I needed to know was the title, and I wanted to read it. There was no way I was not reading this book. And that book is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I'm not kidding when all I had to see here was the title to want to read this, but then I saw the cover. Look at this cover. It's gorgeous. And then you see the paperback cover and you're like, oh my word, that's gorgeous too. Did I buy both the hardcover and the paperback before I even read them? Yes. Yes, I did do that. But it's okay because it made it to the best books of the year, so it's fine. I adored my time reading Emily Wilde. Emily Wilde was such a fun character to follow. I don't know, I found her kind of relatable in the sense that she's like, I don't know people, like I don't know what's going on, so I don't want to figure it out. Just let me work with my fairies and find that out, and you can just leave me alone. It's okay, I don't need to interact with you at all. And I liked the way that it was written, like it was a journal she was writing about her discoveries and what happened on her expedition to research these fairies. While I do think that it's a wholesome story for the most part, there is some dark elements that happen in the story, and I just think that added to the book a lot, and I just really loved everything that happened in the story. There's parts of it that feel like a fever dream and you're like, what in the world's going on? But that's okay because you're supposed to feel like it's a fever dream, so it works out. The little added touch of the romance element in it, if it was adorable, and I love them both so very much. The academic rivals to lovers type scenario that they got going on is so cute. Even though it's one-sided, it's just on Emily's side that it's academic rivals, but that's okay. We love her anyway. I don't know. It just, this book and story just makes me very happy, and I'm glad that I read it, and that is why it's in my number 9 spot for 2023. Okay, my number 8 spot is the one that may make you click off of this video, and or it might make you call the cops on me. I hope that you don't do that, because we all have our own tastes, but just forewarning you, that might be your reaction. My number 8 spot is There's No Devil by Sophie Lark. I am not going to apologize. I just had a fun time when I was reading this. Did it take me a second to get into the first one? Yes. Yes, it did. But once I was hooked, and I couldn't look back, okay? I enjoyed my time reading this so very much. Are Cole and Mara completely psycho? Yes. Would I recommend anyone to want a relationship like these two? No, I would not. Don't go searching out this relationship. That's for sure. Is Cole a good man? No, he's not. It literally says that in the book, that he's not a good man. He's out here killing people just because, for the most part. Like, none of this book should be used as a guide for your relationships in real life. But did I have a great time while reading this? Yes, I did. And I enjoyed every second of it. And I will not apologize. I'm not gonna, even though I feel like I should. The number 7 spot is going to go to a comic, and that comic is Monstrous Volume 1 Awakening by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. Hopefully I said those right. This book surprised me so much how much I enjoyed it. I thought I would like it. It was kind of a win that I picked it up because I hear so many good things about it, but I read it and it was so good. I had such a fun time reading this book, and I say that with everything, but if I don't have a fun time while reading it, is it actually a good book to me? That's a good question. And the answer is probably no. If I'm not having a fun time, it's probably not a good book for me. You are gonna probably hear that with every single book that I read, that it was a fun time. The art in this book is so pretty. It's gorgeous. I love the art style in this book. Here's some pages. It's just, the art is gorgeous and I love it so very much. But then you have the added addition to the story that's unfolding, and it's just, the story is so intriguing. You just want to know what's going on. Like, you don't fully understand, even within this first volume, what is actually going on. You get some answers, but a lot of questions are still left unanswered, which is surprising why I haven't picked up volume 2 yet. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I want to so bad. The next time I buy a book, it's probably going to be this book, or the sequel, volume 2 for this book, because it was so good and I need it in my life, and I need to continue the story because I just need to know what's going on. And that's all there is to it. The number 6 spot goes to a book, well, I guess you would call it a manga, that I feel like I somehow bring this story up in every video I make, and I am not sorry about it because it's so good. And that book is Frieren, Beyond Journey's End by Volume 9, story by Kanhito Yamada and art by Tsukasa Abe. Every video I talk about this. If you're new here, but if you are following me and you aren't new, you know how much I love this story. I'm just so glad that I picked up the first few volumes when they were out, and I've been following it, and we got an anime this year for this series, and the anime is so good too. So if you're not a manga reader, but you like to watch anime or TV, the anime is also just as good. Frieren deserves all the praise it gets and more. I love it so very much. And if you don't know, and this is volume 9, so I can't really talk much about what's going on in this one, but this story, if you don't know, starts off with Frieren. She's an elf, so she's really long-lived, so like thousands of years old, so she doesn't really have the same concept of time as humans do. And The story starts off with her being in this group of heroes that just defeated the Demon King, which is the big bad evil person of this time period at the moment. And it follows her life after the events of the Demon King transpired. And that's pretty much all I want to tell you about it, because I think that it has the most impact on you reading volume 1 if that's all you know. And it was so good. It's like such a heartwarming story. Like, you cry, you laugh, you have a good time, you have a fun time. It just makes me so happy. That's just pure joy for me, is this book. And if I can get anyone to read it, I will be happy, because I love it so very much. The 5th book on my list is by an author that I've read. I used to read a lot when I was a kid, or when I was younger, I guess. And I used to love her stories. And when I found out that she was coming out with an adult romance, I had to read it. And that book is The Blonde Identity by Ally Carter. Once again, it was such a fun time. Okay, first of all, I know I really haven't been doing this to most of the books. I've just been explaining how happy all these books make me. But I'll tell you some of the tropes it has. It's a spy novel. It has the amnesia trope. It's Grumpy Sunshine. Forced proximity. I'm trying to think of other ones at the moment, but those are the ones that come to my head at the start. So those are the ones I'm going with. It's just such a fun time. Like, the spy novel, amnesia, sign me up. I love a good amnesia story. Actually, I love a good spy novel, and this is just has everything. And I went all out with like the annotations that I did with it. Like, I tabbed it, I highlighted, I even marked in the mark. Like, I even wrote in it. Like, I never do that. Look at that. Look at me go. Look how many times I wrote in this. Beautiful. I love it. I just knew right off the bat I was gonna love this, because I love this author, and anything she writes I will devour. Have I read everything by her? No, not yet. Are they on my list? Yes, they are, because I adore this author, and this book is such a good time. If you're looking to get into adult romance, I think this is a good place to start. Just saying. It's just precious, and I love it. Which is something I could say about all these books. Not about Precious. I'm going to say I love every one of them. The 4th book on my list is probably pretty obvious, because there's a big hole on my shelf right here. And that is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. The story is so good. If you haven't read it already and you kind of want to, or you're kind of getting into the Sarah J. Maas world and you're wanting to pick this up, I suggest not reading the description on the flap, because it spoils something that I think has a bigger impact on you if you don't know it. But with that out of the way, it took me a little bit. I read this at the beginning of the year, so some of it's faded, but I know I had a fun time when I was reading it. It took a little bit to get into it. Like, once you got past all the world building and like the setup of the story, I had such a good time while reading this. I love Bryce. Do I actually think we'd get along in real life? No, I think she'd be too energetic for me. Like, she's a party girl, hard party girl, and I'm just not like that at all. But I love her anyway, and I love following her. I also love Lahava, which is a little fire sprite that's in this book. I love her so very much. She's adorable, and I love her. She deserves everything. There's like a mystery plot that goes through the story, and I really liked following that mystery and trying to figure out what was going on. And the way it wrapped up was amazing, and I loved it so very much. It was so... Sarah J. Maas loves to put all the action in the last 100 pages of her story, and she did it so well in this one. I loved it so very much. All I'm going to say is Bryce in a vacuum. That's it. That's all I want to tell you. And I loved it so very much. And for spot number 3, we're changing it up a little bit and going with the middle grade. I can't deny that I love it. So This series is just so good. And that book is Amari and the Great Game by Vivian Alston. Yes. Did it take me a while to get to this? Yes, it did. Am I sad that I did that? No, because it's still taking him a while to get out the third one. So, who was right taking a while to read this? Really? I just feel like this series is a middle grade that anyone could read. Like, you hear that a lot. Like, I feel like it's kind of like Lightning Thief or Percy Jackson that way. I feel like Percy Jackson and both and this any age can read and not find at all boring. For people who don't really like to read middle grade, for those people, I feel like you should at least try Amari because it's so good. Is that all I've been saying for all these books? Probably. Do I know any other description to say about these books? Probably. Am I going to say them? Probably not. I just really enjoy Amari as a character. She's just a fun character to follow, and I love the side characters as well. Her best friend that she meets at school that she ends up going to. What do they call it? A school or a summer camp? I think they call it a summer camp. I love her, and I can't really speak much about what happens in this story without spoiling things that happen in the first one because this is a sequel. I've already mentioned that. The first one is Amari and the Night Brothers, which is just as amazing. It also landed in my top 10 books of the year I read it, so I mean, lots of hype to live up to for the third book. Also, I just want to say this ending, it made me cry a little, not gonna lie. But like happy tears. It was so good. But also like B.B. Alston likes to give cliffhangers. Like slight cliffhangers. I feel like they're cliffhangers. But he does them so well that you're like, it's okay. I'll allow it. Now, on to my second book, the one you've all been waiting for, and that is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Once again, I just had a fun time. It's not like a masterpiece. I'm not saying that you'll enjoy it. Did I enjoy it? I had a blast reading this book. It like brought me back to when I was younger. I was reading a book and I couldn't put it down until I finished it because I wanted to know so badly what was going to happen. That's what happened with this book. Also, the added benefit that I picked it up before I knew anything about it. I just saw it randomly at the store and I saw the dragons on it and I was like, I have to get it now. There's dragons on the edges of the book. I saw the dragons and I was hooked. I was like, I have to buy it now. I also bought it during the week of my graduation of college. So that also plays a part in how much I adored this book. Like there's so many like nostalgia points for this book now that I would never get rid of it. Hopefully the third book gets better, but like this one specifically I adored. And I love Violet actually quite a lot. Apparently that's a odd opinion to have, I guess. I've heard quite a few people like diss on Violet, but I adored Violet. And my favorite thing in this whole book, though, the whole story, is the dragons and the way the dragons interact with each other and like the main characters. I would read a book just about the dragons, if I was being honest. I love Taryn, I love Adarna, they're just beautiful, and I just want to give them all hugs, though none of them would let me. I would probably be roasted. People talking about going into, trying to get a dragon, like if you were in this world, I would die. I would want to get a dragon so bad, but there would be no way I would win this schooling process. I would die in this schooling process. So I'd probably end up being a scribe or something. I mean, you could tell just by me smiling and talking about it. Like, I just loved it and I had such a fun time. I'm sorry if you didn't, but I had a blast. Now on to the number one book of the year that came as a surprise to everyone, specifically me, and that is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I am just as surprised as you are. You probably aren't surprised because you barely know my reading taste, but I'm surprised that I enjoyed this as much as I did. I thought I was going to like it. I didn't think I was going to dislike it, but I didn't think it was going to be so enjoyable to me. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I do. Let me put it into perspective. Fourth Wing was a fun time. A Dowry of Blood is a favorite of all time. Like, I don't know how better to describe that to you than that, but this is like in top books of all time for me, like favorites forever. It's up there with Percy Jackson and Six of Crows. That's how much I love this book. It's my number one of the year for a reason. I adore this story. It's such okay, I'm gonna say something that everyone says about this book that likes it. The writing, immaculate. Like, it's so good. I'm not normally someone that picks up on writing at all, but it's so good. It's so good. I also tabbed and annotated this, and of course I annotated in red ink because you're reading a vampire book. You have to do it in red. Like, that's a requirement. I don't know. I don't want to burst your bubble, but it was so good. And I'm so glad that I annotated it too because I loved it. And it's a new all-time favorite. Not just favorite of the year, favorite of all time. I want to make sure that you know that distinction. Every other book on this list pales in comparison to how much I love this book. I'm at a loss for words about what else I can say about this book to make you read it, because I just want everyone to read it. Like, even if you're unsure about a book, just pick it up. Just pick this book up. Just do it. Unless you have the same qualms with it as Gavin reads it all, then maybe you shouldn't. But I adored how it was written. Like, I loved the letter format that this took and how it was talking to Dracula. I loved how that worked out in this story. So most of the things that Gavin reads it all disliked about this book, I was like, I love that part. I love that actually a lot. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. So it all worked very well for me. And now I have a favorite book of all time. And these are the top 10 books of the year. This is a very heavy stack, but they're all so good. But every one of these are so good, and I had such a fun time reading them that I don't care. If any of these sound like your top cup of tea, I highly recommend them. So that was my top 10 books of 2023. Hopefully you found some books that I've convinced you to read. I know I didn't go into descriptions to majority of them because I'm really bad at describing what books are about, so I tend to just not do that. I tend to just say I love them a lot. And hopefully you can extrapolate from there. You can talk to me in the comments about the books that you've read from this list, if you love them or you didn't, or books that you found from this list that you're like, oh, that kind of actually sounds interesting, let me pick that up. I hope you had a fun time with this video. I had a fun time making it. Hope you all stay healthy because I'm trying to, even though it doesn't sound like it. I hope to see you next year, but I make no promises. Bye.